And
Okay,
Lou,
we're recording, and this is our Empathy Circle Facilitators Support Group, and Bill and Lou are going to be talking about facilitating Empathy Circle Facilitator training. So take it away.
Lou, you want to kick it off?
Sure. So Bill and I came up with kind of a plan for doing Empathy Circle Facilitator training, and we had our first session on Tuesday. And we had 3 participants, and we kind of tag-teamed it, the 2 of us. And we have identified a 4-step process, a roughly 4-step process, the first step of which is to have people experience empathy circles. And that could be 1 or 2 or 3, but some number of empathy circles so they have an experience with the practice. And the second step is having an empathy circle or a session that focuses on being a facilitator and asks participants to reflect on why do they want to be a facilitator and what questions and concerns do they have about being a facilitator. And in that session, we also talk about culture of empathy and what some of the core principles or values are of empathy circle or culture of empathy. And then the third step is facilitators who are training to actually try out facilitating with someone co-facilitating with them. And then maybe another session that reflects on that, and then actually just iterating past that process. And if it sounds a little unclear, it's because we are in the process of kind of evaluating what we're doing while we're doing it and asking ourselves what's needed. But I think we had a good start, and I'm really encouraged.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what Lou said. I really enjoyed both collaborating with Lou and then also with Divya, Sharman, and Neetu, who were at our training, and really appreciating what they're bringing to the table. And it's very motivating. And we're looking at 2 different sort of models. We're experimenting. One is a sort of part independent learning, part guided learning, and the other one is a little bit more like a traditional path of like 4 classes. And so we're just trying to, work with that, but really enjoying it. And I also have something to say about adapting, circles for young kids, but I'll wait for that with more time. And that's it.
I'll just add on top of what Bill said. I also the conversation, the content that came out of our empathy circle, which was about facilitation. What are people's thoughts and concerns and questions about facilitation? I have a whole page of notes that came out of that that will support my what I've been saying I want to write, which is an extension to the facilitator's guide that talks about different questions and situations. So I'm excited about that.
Okay, I guess we'll open it up to the, I know that Martha and Caroline have been doing something very similar. We certainly have taken inspiration from them, and as well as liberally plagiarizing anything that they happen to throw down there. And of course, we're all plagiarizing Edwin. So anybody who wants to, yeah, Edwin.
I have a whole list of people I plagiarize too. So this is a culture of plagiarism, just to be clear about that. I try to steal from the best too.
Let that be a lesson to you young people. All right. Anybody else?
Just to say I'm grateful, and it makes me happy, and I think I want to do your training and you can do ours, and we'll all because I think we're just in a way we're repeating, but I think we're coming from different angles and getting to the same point, and that gives me great joy. And I only wish we were all in the same time zone so we could do it together, but but in this way we can learn, and that'll be nice. And as well, if you, we'll see. It's cool. It's very nice.
Okay, Caroline, I saw your finger.
I just want to say that it's good that we are in different time zone. We can cover the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Right.
like.
Yeah.
I also want to say, as a person who's been a teacher for a long time and taught in a lot of different kinds of settings, um, it was a discovery for me how using an empathy circle format for learning is really interesting um, because everyone is sharing, and the sharing is going slow, and the sharing is distributed, all the different attributes of the circle. It really supports, by the instructor, formative assessment of the learning, because you're saying something, but then you're hearing how people who are receiving it, what they're thinking, how they're receiving it, and what their questions are right in the moment. Or they're adding their own experience to the learning. And you're hearing from everyone. And that's not typically what goes on in a classroom. What typically goes on is, lecture, which is one way. And then if you're a good instructor, you're stopping periodically to hear questions from the audience. But generally, it's not feedback from the audience, or like audience people or the students sharing their own experience or sharing their questions about applying the material. That doesn't usually happen in a normal question and answer session, or not in the same way that does in an empathy circle. So I mean, it's also true that there are fewer people in an empathy circle than you might have in a normal class. So I guess that's another aspect of it, is you're not educating as many people at the same time. But it's really, I think the learning is quite effective in that format. And the instructor has a lot of opportunity for learning themselves and for adjusting what's being delivered based on what the students need. And of course, that's a really important element of education, is that you're providing what the student needs when they need it.
Edwin?
It seems like we're coming from three different places. Martha and Carolina have a training that they've done. I've got that 8-hour training, and the two of you. So I hope we can sort of coalesce these into one, training. And I have watched the first two videos of Martha and Carolina. So it was really helpful to have those videos. And I went through and listened and made notes, so I kind of gave a rough sorting of what I heard. There's all these insights, like Leona was in one of them, and there's these insights that come up, and it's like, I try to jot them down, but how to harvest them. And then, like Lou, you were saying, give them a sort of a didactic structure too. So we have these all these different insights sort of organized. I just see that as something that is a need for creating a more comprehensive training. So.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. And I'm looking, I think partially what we're doing is creating a structure that's really consistent and has high quality regarding, our core values and principles, but also flexible enough for individual, improvisation and, not too far afield, but, has some flexibility built into it as well, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'll just add, so I don't see the training that Bill and I are doing and what Carolina and Marta did as very different. If you look at the outline that they have and the outline that we made, they're very similar. They have same kind of steps, and they are both integrating experiential learning with talking about it, reflecting on it. Your training, Edwin, is a little bit different in that it's all recorded, and it focuses, it's not really on empathy circle facilitation, it's more on empathy circle practice, where you have the different pieces are on speaker, listener, and I guess maybe facilitator is one of the ones in your training. Is that right? There is one.
Yeah, that's true.
On that. Yeah, and it's all recorded, so you're listening to the recording, which is, you know, that's great. There's a lot of good information in there, but it's different than actually participating in conversation about that, which is, it's interesting watching someone else participate in a conversation and learning from that versus actually participating in yourself. I think there is a difference there. And I think your question, Edwin, about distilling, like if you listen to the 2-hour recording and you distilled the lessons that came from the conversation, you know, that might be a page or 2 pages. And there probably is value in distilling those lessons and codifying them in a document that could be read in 10 or 15 minutes instead of listening to the 2-hour video. That both of those have value, and that's probably worth doing at some point. It's kind of like the list of notes I took from our session that we had on Tuesday, and how that would feed into what I was maybe going to try to expand with the facilitator's guide. That's kind of capturing some of those lessons, and I think both are important. Both formats are important.
Leona.
So I'm not sure if it's just really early morning brain fog, but I think I'm hearing 2 things. One is about the empathy facilitators training, but the other is about empathy circles as a space for experiential learning. And the cafes, which have a topic focus rather than just being open empathy, seem to invite that sense, because you have the speaker first and then people deepen and share learnings. And that's really interesting to me also as a person who has a history in adult education around this time of COVID has generated a lot of online learning. There's a lot of resourcing out there now, say in XR, for example. Regen 101's gone online. There's been a lot of online training. And rather than inviting people to have to sit through live training online, as it were, they could watch the training that's already available of other people. And then an empathy circle could be an exploration of what they think they've learned from that training, or what they have learned. So that empathy circles form a support to learnings that people are trying to undertake, rather than have to show up to a live online or a live session. And that makes it more available to people in different time zones and different accessibility issues, you know, around availability, timings. Just an idea, because I think the empathy circles, when you do the cycle, they really deepen people's learnings of every kind, including topics. That's it. I feel complete there.
Yeah, okay. So I'll reflect a little bit. And so you're talking about how it'd be more flexible for people's timing if they can then use the videos and then reflect in a circle. It's just more flexible and adaptable.
Yeah, not just on becoming an empathy circle facilitator, but any training that is being offered on a topic. I just think an empathy circle is also a learning process. So I may be going a long way from its original intent there. Just check in on that one. Thanks.
Well, before everyone, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, it is a learning process. And also emotional learning, which is distinct from cognitive learning. Edwin?
Yeah, I think there's the aspect of the didactic material can just be out on a video. You can go just watch that, and then you don't have to be with, you know, listening to a lecture. You just watch the video, and then you get together with others and you have an empathy circle around talking about it. And then because that time is so precious when people get together, that instead of having all that didactic material, that's kind of what I'm hearing. And that's what I like too. It's like, I don't want to just sit in person and just watch somebody give a lecture when I can just fast forward through stuff, you know, through recording. The second part I see, just before Martha goes, is what about planning already a second cohort, Bill and Lou? perhaps Neetu and Divya would be willing to take part, or Sharman, and then get some others, you know, for sort of a second round, because it takes, you know, it takes a week or so to get people lined up. And if you announced it now, you could already be planning for that second cohort. And I'm also hearing almost like we need an empathy circle trainers facilitator training support group, you know, so yeah, that's it.
Let's see, Marta and then Carolina.
Just quickly, it's a bit off topic in a way, but it's in response to what Leona was saying. I'm aware that there's a lot of oppression and movement building workshops going on in XR, and they're very experiential, and at the same time they cover a lot of material. And I've done it myself, and I think at some point having empathy cafes on those topics would be really good, because what people are left with after doing those workshops is a lot of inner conversation that needs to happen, and people don't often have in their own lives the space to go with that. But just having more workshops wouldn't necessarily help, because out of the 15 things that were brought up, you'll have those 1 or 2 issues that you want to go into yourself for your own. So yeah, in a way it's not relevant to the training, but I thought I'd mention it, that it'd be nice to line that up at some point.
Carolina.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm not sure if I feel a little bit distracted and have problems with focusing on what's going on. So I'm not sure about saying that, but I would like to say that making process faster is not what we want to do. We want different culture. We don't want to make we actually trying to go against this cultural pattern of making everything fast and efficient and more quickly. And if somebody is not committed to spend some time in experiencing what we try to do here, I don't believe this person can be good facilitator. We need this commitment and slowing down the process of learning. That's what I believe. Those attitudes don't match each other. It is about slowing down.
James?
Yeah, I very much support that sentiment from Carolina. That is one of, I think, the main criticisms I have towards how facilitator trainings happen in this group. I'm opposed to the idea of mass producing them, because facilitation, I mean, it's an art, and I get concerned. I mean, I've undergone the punishment of being facilitated by unskilled facilitators enough to know that it concerns me. And so, you know, I haven't wanted to push back on that, but I think that really ties in to Caroline's point about rushing things. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and I want to chime on this theme. So, so I'm definitely aware that it's possible to go so fast that you cut the heart out of the process, or that one might skip over or undermine the understanding that one of the things that's important in empathy and in understanding other people is slowing down enough, or actually even understanding yourself is slowing down enough to do that. But I don't see that. Having said that, I think that it just makes sense in terms of respecting people's time and valuing people's time, that the materials that get created, or the processes that get created, that they're effective, or meaning that they are somewhat efficient. Yeah, so my point being, as an example, so you could watch a 2-hour recording of an empathy circle of people exploring ideas, and you can learn something from that. Or you could watch a 10-minute presentation or a 15-minute presentation or maybe a 20-minute presentation that covers the topics that come out of that circle, and then do your own circle where you explore your thoughts and your feelings around those topics. And right, if you just did the 20-minute presentation and threw away the experiential piece, that would not be good. But if you do the 20-minute presentation, then you do the experiential piece, you've cut 1 hour and 40 minutes out of the training time. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of efficiency.
Mm-hmm. And I'll chime in a little bit on that as well. It is a trade-off. And so we're trying, that's one of the reasons why we're grateful for the feedback that we get. I also believe that you need to have some sort of personal interaction, both experiencing the circles, and then if you're going to become a facilitator, I feel it's much more effective if you can then ask someone who's done it and get feedback with that. As far as slowing it down, that's one of the things that we try to do to accommodate the healthcare workers, because their time is so compressed and so many things are going on, not only in their professional lives, but their personal lives. So we try to say that open-ended, we have these ongoing things, experiencing the empathy circles. And then once you've done that and you want to become a facilitator, then, Lou and I put together this kind of, a more didactic, but still using the empathy circle process training to talk about those issues. And then Lou was, then you go back and you try some facilitation and co-facilitation. And then Lou, what I thought was an excellent suggestion. Then you come back after you've had that experience and you maybe do another circle to kind of talk about those experiences and what you do next. So you could stay like a month in just listening to empathy circles if you want. And then now I feel ready. So it accommodates different people's learning styles and, and also length of time that training model does. That's all.
Okay, that was sort of our time for this
Okay.
slot, if everybody feels good with moving on. So we had, oh, let me stop the recording.